What happened to Kathleen Haley? That's a question police and family have been asking for 5 years.
What they found in her apartment that has everyone concerned.
Tom, this is a very strange case. You've had blood found all over Haley's apartment, pieces of carpet that were no longer there, gloves and cleaning supplies as if someone was cleaning up a mess. And of course, a woman to this day who is still considered missing.
Welcome back to Weeknight Mysteries. My name is Yuras. I'm joined by my co-host, Rain. How are you doing today?
I'm all good. Hello, everyone. Hello, Yuris. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm ready to talk about some true crime. Today we have a very interesting case to discuss, a lesser known case that some people might not be aware of. We're going to be talking about the Kathleen Patricia Haley's disappearance case. We highly suspect that it's a murder for reasons that we will talk about. This case has been suggested by one of our commenters on YouTube named Scott. So once again, thank you very much for the suggestion.
Scott.
Yeah. Apparently it happened in Scott's hometown, which is a very weird American name for a city. It's called Newport News.
I first thought it was a news channel, I'm not gonna lie.
It sounded like one, right? So Kathleen Patricia Haley, also known as Kathy, was a 37-year-old woman who is classified as endangered and missing. She was last seen on September 1st in 2012, which was a Saturday, in her, town that she was living in, basically the same Newport News in the state of Virginia. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the city itself, because Scott had suggested to us that it's a very unique city for America because it has a very high number of military personnel living there. Basically, what I've found was that Newport News, the main economic output, is basically produced by either shipbuilders, because they have very big shipbuilding facilities, because the whole city, to kind of paint a bigger picture, is like a port city. And it kind of is surrounded, there's this area of cities called the Hampton Roads, and it's part of it. And there's a lot of like docks and ports and a lot of shipbuilding, and also a lot of, I would say, probably Navy personnel. It would make sense that a lot of Navy people are there.
Yeah.
So the whole economic and social environment is kind of very like shipbuilders, like Navy personnel, I would assume, things of that nature. Even where Kathleen was living, you could pretty much see a dock right next to her, where she was essentially living. Among the city's major industries are shipbuilding, military, as well as aerospace. Newport News Shipbuilding, owned by Huntington Ingalls Industries, and the large coal piers supplied by railroad giant CSX Transportation, the modern Future 500 successor to the Chesapeake and Ohio Railway. Basically, these are some of the companies that operate in the city, and that's like the general vibe of the city. Now, jumping back to Kathleen, the person that we're going to be talking about today, she was a Caucasian female with brown hair that fell just below her shoulders, and with hazel eyes. She had hazel eyes, essentially. She was around 4'11" to 5 foot in height.
Not that tall then.
Not that tall, but her actual physical characteristic will actually play into a certain clue that we will discuss shortly as well in the podcast. She weighed around 100 to 120 pounds. Her both ears were pierced. She had piercings. We can see from the Charlie Project's website some pictures of Kathleen, as well as her dog, Molly. She was living with a dog named Molly. And also we see a suspect, who we will jump to soon shortly. A man who has blonde hair and is suspected to be the killer. And we'll talk about this very soon. Now, Haley, so Kathleen Haley, she lived alone. It's important to mention, I think that. And also she lived in an apartment on the 2801 block of West Avenue, and she worked as a dancer at a local adult club called The Headlights. At the same time when she disappeared. She worked late hours, and she would sometimes arrive home at 3 a.m. So that's her, employment background. Now,
This is pretty interesting because this information isn't available online. I did also my research and it wasn't completely available online, so I did some research
Right.
about the adult clubs in Newport News. There were only two, and initially we were kind of debating on which one's which, right? Because one adult
Exactly.
club was closer to her home.
and you know, the mystery doesn't end here because, well, great help from our commenter Scott.
Yeah,
who
thanks
helped-
again.
Yeah, thanks again, Scott. Scott pointed us to the right direction because he said that, well, initially there were two nightclubs.
Yeah.
One was called The Cat.
I actually thought that was...
It's not it. According to Scott, it was the other club called Headlights. Now I thought, okay, so we know where Headlights sits. There's like this like kind of club called the Headlights. But to my surprise,
It's the adult club a bit farther from Kathleen's home, right?
the thing is there are two Headlights.
Oh.
As I was researching the case today, you know, I was kind of trying to dig into the club that she was working at because it seemed like one of potentially a customer at the club could have killed her. And
Potentially.
I'm gonna talk about that soon. And you know, I was thinking, okay, let's investigate the Headlights Club. Let's see what kind of a crowd kind of goes there, where it's at. You know what I mean? Maybe I could dig up some information about the club. Now, I went to the Headlights on Google search. You know what I mean? And the first thing that I found was actually their Instagram page. And I was like, okay, this is good. This is a good start. Now, when I opened up the Headlights page, Instagram page, the first thing I actually saw was their address pinned to the bio. And the address was way different. And then I uncovered this huge rabbit hole that there are two Headlights clubs.
Oh, wow.
And they're actually both they're both like the distance from either of their locations to Kathleen's home is actually identical. It's just that one is to the, I would say, north, and the other one was like maybe more to the east. So up until this day, we have no idea. And I actually have pictures of both. So this is the first one that I found.
Yeah.
Now on the Google Street View, it actually says Showgirls, and there's another one that kind of says Headlights. So I'm probably thinking it's the second one.
It's pretty weird. They just look like regular buildings.
Yeah, and also I'm thinking maybe the owner or the, you know, whoever owns one maybe is the owner of the other as well. Maybe they're going with the Headlights team.
Yeah, most likely.
Most
Just different
likely.
branches.
But as you can see, this is a good indication of their location. So the point in the middle, if you can see, that's where Kathleen is from. Well, that's her home. And you can see there are two Headlights in separate directions. So we don't know where she actually worked.
The other one's closer.
The other one's closer, but at the same time, I don't think I could really dig out all that much information because let's remember, we're recording in 2023 and this happened in 2012. So this is a 11-year-old case.
Pretty old one.
Yeah, probably can't really dig out like who
Yeah.
exactly was going there like a decade ago. The place probably changed a little bit, right? Okay, so moving on with the story. Kathleen Patricia Haley was also described as a very private person. She never told her family exactly where she worked. So I don't think her family, up until the case
Even
broke,
knew, right?
they didn't probably even know. It was also said that it wasn't unusual for her to go several days without contacting her family. However, she did contact her mother at least once or twice, a week before her disappearance. Her family also stated that Kathleen was acting normally the last time they spoke to her. So nothing to indicate that anything's going down, you know what I mean? She was also said to have a boyfriend who moved to Germany about a month before her disappearance. I don't know much about that, but I think we'll shortly return to that later on. On September 1st, 2012, the day when she was last seen, she spoke to her sister and said that she would come over, but she also had plans for later in the night. She never did make it to her sister's place, and this was the last time anyone has spoken to her or seen her.
I wonder what that plan was.
Exactly. Well, it's, once again, let's remember, September 1st is a Saturday. If she is working as a dancer at an adult nightclub, maybe
She was probably working.
she was probably working.
Yeah,
That's
just
what I'm
masking it as planned.
thinking. Exactly. So, once again, something must have happened on the 1st of September because she didn't make it to her sister's home. So it's either that she forgot or like kind of just shrugged it off and didn't go,
Yeah.
or something terrible happened on the 1st of September. We don't really know exactly what happened on that day, but we can only speculate at this point. She was reported missing by her family on September 7th, which is interesting because that's 6 days later and it's a Friday. So she goes, tells her sister on Saturday that she's gonna come over,
Yeah.
but she doesn't come over. And then she's reported missing 6 days later. Once again, she's a private person. She doesn't really keep contact on a very regular basis with her family. So I think it's kind of explainable.
Yeah,
Why?
definitely. Maybe she would call once a week,
Yeah, exactly.
right? And maybe the family was waiting for her to call, and there weren't any calls, and that's when they started getting suspicious.
Yeah, that could potentially be happening. Also, I'm thinking, maybe it wasn't like, maybe she was known to kind of bail on family gathering plans before. Like, for
Most
example,
likely, yeah.
she says to her sister that we will meet up, but maybe it's not, maybe she doesn't go there, and then maybe even nothing bad happens on the 1st of September.
Exactly.
Maybe she goes to work, comes back, and just chills with her dog. Maybe that's all there is. We don't really know what's happening there. She was also said to be wearing a handmade gemstone necklace and small stud earrings the day when she was last seen. That's all we have. This is kind of vague because we don't know who saw her,
Yeah, exactly.
where she was seen, was she seen at work, what she was doing.
That's a really good question. Maybe a neighbor saw her, and if so, who was that neighbor?
We have none of these details, but we have to work with what we have here. Now, the police officers arrived at her apartment in the 2801st block of West Avenue in Newport News and were greeted with a troubling scene. Cass' computer and her entire bed was gone. There was blood on her bedroom door, and a section of the carpet was cut away and removed.
That's just so disturbing.
Okay, first of all, taking a bed sounds very strange to me. So the
Yeah.
culprit took the entire bed. Blood splatter on the door suggests a violent act has taken place. I'm thinking either a gunshot or a knife slashing, potentially.
Probably a knife slashing. Because
Potentially,
if
right?
there was a gunshot, someone would have heard it. Someone would have reported it.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna come back to this because I have a few thoughts about this whole ordeal, what they found in a little bit. Several cleaning supplies and rubber gloves were also found in the bathroom. To me, it immediately kind of was funny because aren't these items supposed to be in the bathroom?
That's true.
Cleaning
That's true.
supplies and rubber gloves, that's what we keep in the bathroom, like where I'm from. I think my mom keeps that stuff there.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's like, is this even a...
Unless that's the only thing. Those are the only things in your bathroom.
Yeah, then it would be pretty
Pretty
strange,
weird,
right?
right?
Then we have very confusing information about the mattresses. So let me try to be as clear as possible here. Mattresses, I'm using plural as in multiple mattresses, were found with brown stains, and blood-stained clothing was in the laundry basket. So immediately I'm thinking the culprit took away the bed and the computer, but there were multiple mattresses found. So it seems like Kathleen keeps multiple mattresses in her home.
Yeah.
Why were the mattresses found but the bed was gone?
I was thinking, could it potentially be a single person mattresses, or like queen size, king size mattresses? Was it ever?
No, it wasn't. But what would that tell us though, I'm thinking?
Because if it's a single
Yeah.
mattress or single mattresses,
Yeah.
because in the hotel, I remember whenever I stay in a hotel and I would like ask people I want the queen size bed. Sometimes they would have like single different mattresses and they would put them side by side, push them together, and have one bed sheet over it, and that would create a queen size bed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but if it's like two queen size beds,
Right.
that could potentially be a different story. Maybe she had a roommate. She didn't have a roommate, right?
Yeah, well, I have a little theory about why she would have multiple mattresses, but I'll come back to that later on.
Yeah.
Kathleen's dog, a boxer named Molly, was not found in her apartment or anywhere nearby as well. Seems like Molly was an older dog. I'm guessing this from the white fur on her face from the picture provided by law enforcement.
She did look like
An older dog.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kathleen's car was found in the apartment parking lot with the doors unlocked. Leaving her car unlocked was said to be uncharacteristic for Kathleen. Furthermore, the driver's seat was pushed all the way back, which makes it seem like someone much taller than Kathleen had been driving the vehicle. Very suspicious. Once again, I have
suspicious.
thoughts about all of this, and I'll kind of revert back to all of this. Lastly, the most damning piece of evidence we have was that an unidentified Caucasian man with blonde hair was seen going in and out of Kathleen's apartment on September 4th, Tuesday. Let's remember, she's last seen on 1st, which is a Saturday.
Yeah.
Now, a suspect is seen in her apartment going in and out on Tuesday. I have thoughts on that as well. Just 3 days after she was last seen, the man was also walking to the dumpster with his arms full of something rolled up, quite possibly bedding or something else.
My question is that who saw this guy?
I would say someone in the neighborhood. My guess, because if you could take a look quickly at how her apartment looks, this is basically where she lived. You could see it's almost like cottages kind of connected to each other.
It's pretty cramped.
It's pretty cramped. And then if you would look at some other images of like the surrounding neighborhood that I took on the Google Maps, you could see that there's a lot of people living in this area.
Yeah.
It's kind of like there's a lot of people here in one little space. So I think maybe someone saw this man.
They seem to be like a tight-knit kind of group of people, maybe neighbors.
I'm not sure about that, but they're definitely like located all in the same kind of
Close
area.
proximity, right?
Very close.
It's pretty weird how maybe, well, if they're not particularly close-knit, it would be okay, but wouldn't it be pretty weird to see a stranger, a guy, throwing away some mattresses in the middle of the night or something?
Yeah,
Middle of the
exactly.
day?
That's why I'm thinking maybe they're not that close knit.
Yeah.
Because let's remember, Kathleen is a private person. She probably doesn't talk about much with her neighbors. Just hangs out with the dog, probably, right? The man was also seen walking to the dumpster with his arms full of something rolled up.
That would be pretty weird.
He was cleaning the crime scene.
I mean, if you're the neighbor, you would think it's weird. Why is he throwing something rolled up?
Yeah.
Right?
It's very bold, I would say. To do it also like during the day.
Yeah.
It's very bold. We suspect it was during the day. Maybe it was during the night. We don't know the timeline.
Which would make it even weirder.
But more practical from a killer standpoint.
That's
right?
true.
Ever since Kathleen disappeared, there had been zero activity on her bank accounts, credit cards, or cell phones, indicating that she's no longer alive.
Not a good sign.
Up until now, her case remains unsolved and she's considered to be in danger. Okay, so let's roll it back. I have a few things that I want to immediately kind of talk about here. First, I want to stop really quickly to her boyfriend, the one that moved to Germany just about a month before she disappeared.
Is he American?
Is he American? Are they still dating? Did they break up? Who is this mystery boyfriend?
Yeah. There weren't any information about this guy, no?
Nope, nothing. All right, the next thing I want to kind of jump back to is the fact that she said that she had other plans. So what plans did she have for later on September 1st? To work at the club, I would say.
Probably, most likely.
It's the Saturday. I mean, what else could she be doing?
It's a Saturday, probably high season,
Yeah,
high demand during Saturdays now. Everyone's out and about.
I would say so. Okay, then she was reported missing by the family on the 7th. That's 6 days later. So I will probably just check it up to the fact that she was a private person.
Yeah.
And she wasn't in constant communication. So I could see how the family, I could see how her family only figures out that she's gone.
Yeah.
Like 6 days later.
They were probably exchanging texts until the family became suspicious,
Yeah.
just not sending any texts back,
Exactly.
right?
Now, once again, we have to talk about who saw her last and where she was last seen.
Yeah, that was very suspicious.
It was reported that she was last seen wearing a handmade gemstone necklace and small stud earrings the day when she was last seen. This to me indicates that she was probably at work, because I don't think a regular stranger would remember these details. Like if a stranger, like this looks like almost like a dancer's outfit kind of details, like the gemstone, the earrings, maybe like her dance colleagues or something, colleagues at the pub.
Yeah, you're right. Because if it's a neighbor, they wouldn't give any crap. Like, oh, she's wearing regular clothes.
And the earrings.
Earrings. Everyone wears it.
Exactly. So I think maybe since these details were very specifically reported, I'm probably guessing it's her work.
Probably, yeah. Most likely.
Right. Now, let's start building the profile of the killer. So, Kath's computer and the entire bed was gone. The culprit, to my knowledge, did not take any valuables. It seems that this was not a robbery. From what I'm gathering, this doesn't look like a robbery. No valuables have been taken. Now, it's also interesting to think about the computer. So I'm assuming it's a laptop computer because the culprit took it.
Easier to take.
So I'm just gonna go with the laptop. It doesn't really change anything though. But what's interesting to me is that maybe the culprit had communications online with Kath, and that's why the computer was stolen, to remove any possible traces of communication.
Question.
Yep.
How about the cell phone?
No information about that.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Probably also stolen. I mean, let's just assume that if her computer was stolen, the cell phone's probably also stolen.
Yeah, I mean, this is some information that we're missing because, it's not being widely reported. We don't have like a huge write-up on it anywhere. So I'm going off, and also we're not from America, so some of these like websites are actually blocked.
Oh yeah.
For EU users. So we're going off of the very little information that we had, but I think we have a pretty good like kind of profile of the killer that I'm gonna finish like kind of putting up here. So I think the fact that he took the computer, and it's been reported that he took the computer, I think this is law enforcement telling us that they probably suspect that this man had some sort of online communication. Now, several cleaning supplies and rubber gloves were found. So that's indication that the culprit, I assume, was trying to clean up the scene. So,
or it could potentially be just a regular ass cleaning supplies.
But the way that it was portrayed by the media, or in those little, write-ups on...
it seems suspicious.
No, it seems like, why would you even say something? It's like, oh, they found cookies in the pantry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If it was completely unconnected to what we're actually talking about. They would have said, they found a cup in the cupboard or something.
A dishwashing liquid in the kitchen.
In the kitchen, yeah. So I think what they are kind of telling us that it was somehow either placed weirdly or kind of is suspicious looking, you know what I mean? Okay, so that's interesting.
Very interesting.
So the guy was cleaning up the mess. Now he was seen on the 4th of September cleaning up the mess. So I want to kind of immediately throw this out. I don't think Kathleen was killed on the 1st of September, because I don't see how the killer kills her on Saturday and then waits until Tuesday to clean up.
That's true.
It makes no sense.
Yeah.
So I'm actually thinking right now that Kathleen was perfectly fine on the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of September, staying in with the dog, watching Netflix or whatever, and that whatever happened on the 4th. I don't think the killer would wait 3 days to the middle of the week and do it, Now, let's jump to some other interesting information. To me, was the fact that she had multiple mattresses in the house. And now this is going to be a very unpopular opinion, but I have to say it because that's the only thing that kind of makes sense to me right now. Could it be that she was actually a sex worker during the weekdays? Because think about it. The club probably, to my understanding, is the most popular place to go for people on the weekends. And this happened on a Tuesday. Is it possible that she had online communication with someone via the internet and she agreed to do some sex work or whatever, and she kept multiple mattresses as she was changing them as she was doing whatever she was doing?
Work mattress and then sleeping mattress.
Sleep mattress, exactly. So that's what I'm already thinking. That everything's okay on the first, second, third. On the fourth, she has a client and it goes bad.
That's a very interesting point. Yeah.
That's the only way it adds up to me. Because I was going through my mind, going through multiple scenarios through my head, and nothing else adds up. And I'll explain even more how this actually works in my head. Basically, the one thing I don't understand was why were there blood-stained clothing in the laundry?
It makes you wonder, is the criminal or the killer already done with the cleaning, or maybe the police officers found out about this case when he's not yet done cleaning?
No, I think that he was done, because think about it. He was cleaning on the 4th.
Yeah.
Police found out about this on the 7th.
But it's kinda not very bright of him to just leave the bloody clothes out
It's
there.
a question if those bloody clothes are related to the murder of Kathleen.
Yeah, that's true.
By the way, when I say murder, she's officially still missing.
Yeah.
I'm just,
Potential murder.
but I'm very suspicious that she's alive anymore. Also, it's also interesting that she had a dog, but the dog didn't alert the neighbors.
Could be a very friendly dog.
Friendly old dog that was
Yeah.
maybe easily subdued. You know what I
Most
mean?
likely,
It
yeah.
wasn't a fighter anymore. It was more of a hugging dog type of a thing.
That's true, and maybe the barks aren't really
That
or
loud
weren't
anymore.
really that loud. Yeah.
Or maybe it wasn't even unusual for the dog to bark a lot.
Yeah. There's a lot of possibilities.
Yep.
But where was the dog?
In the house, I think. I would probably killed alongside with Kathleen.
Oh damn, that's sad.
And this is where we're going for some more interesting details right here. So basically, let's remember the car. The car is very important here because her car was found parked in the parking lot.
Yeah.
It was left unlocked, and the seats were kind of set up for a way taller person. To me, this clearly indicates that Kathleen was not the last person driving. So this potentially means that she was, not the last person to use the car, and maybe the culprit drove the car last. And maybe the culprit used the car to dispose of Kath and Molly's, the dog's, bodies.
And buy some cleaning supplies and take it back home.
Potentially, yeah.
Her apartment.
Potentially, yeah. So I'm thinking he probably killed Kathleen inside of the house because of the blood splatter
And the mattresses.
and the mattresses and everything. Killed the dog as well. Put
That
them in
would
the-
explain the carpet.
Yeah, the carpet. He maybe rolled bodies in the carpet
Yeah.
and dispose of them. That's also the only thing that kind of makes sense to me. And then, lastly, I would like to say we don't have information about who saw him last. So I think it's the neighbors or whatever. We do have a fairly okay-ish description, a man, Caucasian and blonde hair. And yeah, I think we kind of went through the details here, and I kind of built a little bit of a profile in my head.
Yes.
Now I have a question.
Yep.
Like, do you have any other kind of potential profiles of the killer, or would you say that my idea of the perpetrator is kind of realistic in this case?
Realistic for sure.
Right. Because you don't have any other kind of profiles here of the killer.
No.
Because yeah, I mean, I wouldn't also. There's nothing else really makes
I
sense.
do have some question in my mind though.
Okay.
Like, do you think he's part of the military?
Yeah, I think he could be either part of the military or part of the shipbuilder environment, because it seemed to me like potentially a local. Because if he met up online to get some sex work, but by the way, this sex work is completely pure speculation. I'm saying if we're building that kind of a profile, it's probably a local person, because you don't really order that kind of a service and then go out of town to get it.
That's true. That's true.
You're from the same area. If you're gonna go grab some of that, then you're from the same area.
Plus, none of the neighbors recognize him, so he's probably like a client first time.
Exactly.
Right?
Seems so. Yeah.
Because if he had visited multiple times, someone would like
Remember
right?
seeing this guy. Yeah, that's true. And that's pretty much where I want to kind of wrap up with the description. And I want to go through a few of the other thoughts that they kind of just wrote down. So for me, it was strange that no one heard her scream, the dog bark, or him carrying out entire bed and cleaning up the scene. So
Maybe there wasn't even a screaming in the first place.
maybe, potentially, but at the same time, it seems like there's, in this kind of a area, I would assume if this is like a house, a very rural area,
Yeah.
it would make more sense. But this is like right there in the heart of the city. Like
Exactly.
there's house, cars everywhere.
It's not even a house, it's an apartment, right?
It's an apartment building. And him
the
taking
walls
out,
are thin.
yeah, and taking out the entire bed.
Pretty weird.
Pretty weird, I'm not gonna lie. Now, another very important thing that we don't know is, do you think law enforcement has the culprit's DNA?
That's a very good question. Because remember, he also drove the car.
Drove the car,
Yeah. I mean, fingerprints,
was cleaning up the whole place.
rubber gloves,
Yeah,
right?
and
If he did use the rubber gloves,
Yes.
the DNA will be all over it.
and you know, this kind of leads me to think, if police doesn't have any DNA, then maybe this is a person who is kind of savvy with doing like this kind of thing. So it would make me think maybe it's a person from potentially the military. You know what I mean? Very handy with carrying like dead bodies, cleaning up the scene. I'm not saying that military personnel like do that kind of they don't necessarily worry about
But
fingerprints,
they're way more knowledgeable than civilians.
yeah, I would say they would have an easier time
Yeah.
than a civilian cleaning up the whole place. I mean, who would clean up? Like an average Joe Schmo, a truck driver, Joe Schmo,
Just would run off.
would run off. This
Exactly.
person was and they were cleaning. All right. The other thing that I would like to mention is that the sketch kind of looks like a military guy.
Oh yeah, look at the hair.
The hair, the white, and from the sketch we can tell that this man is, I don't know, anywhere from 25 to like, let's say 45.
Looks like a mid-30s.
Yeah, looks like a mid-30s. That's a safe bet. Like mid-30s guy. You know what I mean? The hair looks very like still good, still intact. So
Based on the neck, probably wouldn't indicate anything, but it looks like a bulky guy-ish.
looks like a bulky guy. Looks like a working man.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like
exactly.
either a military shipbuilder. Looks like a guy who works with his hands. Doesn't really like go to the office much.
That's true.
You know what I mean? And giving his like handiness with like cutting up the carpet, removing the bed, cleaning the scene. Looks like a guy who kind of works with his
yeah.
hands.
Yeah.
Like a handy
Knows
guy.
what to do.
Knows what he's doing, exactly. Okay, and then the last thing I would say is, could this be potentially a sex client?
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah,
I would also bet on that.
I would also say probably a sex client. The only question is, I mean, stealing the computer. The only reason why I'm kind of thinking that it was an online sex client was because he took the computer. Because if you're just a guy who you had no ever communication with Kath before, you wouldn't really care about the computer that much.
That's true.
And it's a very specific thing that he took. He took the computer, didn't take the TV, nothing. He was already moving like half of the apartment out in the trash, you know what I mean? The beds, everything. I mean, for him to steal the TV would also be pretty easy, I would say. But
Definitely.
but it's not reported, just the computer. So I think the computer indicates that it was online meetup to me, and I'm just kind of going with that. And also we have to think about the time, 2012. Now, I was still a kid when it was 2012, but I'm trying to remember, like, was online communication a very easy thing to do back in 2012? And I think it was.
2012.
2012, it was. YouTube was around for like 6 years at that point. We had YouTube videos. We had all kinds of online stuff.
Isn't that the
Message boards,
Isn't that the
Craigslist.
year of Yahoo Mail or something? Facebook?
Facebook was 2006, I think. So it was like, it was already like
It was there. Yeah,
well
it was
into
there.
Facebook
Yeah.
and people were already like talking online. So 2012 on getting like a sex date online, I think it was a thing back then,
That's true.
right? And then we can jump to the theories. So the first theory obviously is that it was someone from the nightclub,
Could potentially be.
potentially, right?
Yeah, a client from the nightclub. They moved their communications through
Yeah,
online.
Through online.
And
maybe
then
through
they
phones.
met out. Yeah.
They met. Maybe this wasn't even a sex. Maybe she wasn't even doing sex work. Maybe this was just like
A client meeting up.
meeting up. Maybe like for she liked him, he liked her.
Could it potentially be a date, but then
Yeah.
something terrible happened?
Yeah, I
like-
mean, I feel like we're doing Kathleen a little bit dirty here by just immediately suspecting that it was sex work. It
That's
could
true.
easily be just a date.
a date gone wrong.
A date gone wrong, yeah.
Could it potentially be a rape, but then she fought back?
Fought back, yeah, I mean, I think so. I think when it comes down to like those details, I think that's probably how it goes down. So either she met someone online, it was a client, or was someone she knew already. That's another question. Maybe it's someone in her personal life that she already knew about.
Personally, I think it could either be a client, as you said before, or it could be someone she already knows about, someone she was potentially dating, because she wouldn't
For a
invite
while,
a
yeah.
guy in her place. One more question popped up.
Yeah.
Was the guy ever invited, though?
Also, yeah.
Yeah.
It's worth thinking about. I think another thing that it's worth thinking about is like the throwing in the boyfriend in the picture. If the boyfriend moved to Germany a month ago, then that means that it must have been potentially someone new. Someone new in
Definitely.
her life. Maybe they already broke up, and this is someone new.
Yeah.
Someone new. And this kind of even makes more sense, because if she broke up with the boyfriend who already went to Germany, maybe she's on online dating sites.
That's
And she
true.
met someone via the online dating site. Maybe
Yeah.
she went on a few dates and invited him over on a Tuesday, and then things just got very bad.
Very bad, yeah. That's a very good point.
Yeah. So I think online communications are actually key. I think that
really think so.
laptop probably contained. Like, I'm thinking there's a chance that her laptop actually contained the killer.
Definitely.
Yeah. Now that I'm thinking about it, And yeah, I think we ran through the whole notes. It's just interesting for me to cover these lesser known cases, because it's honestly really hard to find information. And
Another theory, though.
Yeah.
Someone from the military. I'm more convinced it's someone from the military.
Yeah.
Because it's very tactical.
Yeah.
The cleaning
tactical.
is very tactical.
Or it could be actually a shipbuilder. You know how they're handy people building big ships? It's a whole docking industry there.
We also have to think about Molly the dog, though. Was Molly killed? Or was Molly let go?
I think it was killed. I think the culprit was maybe it was even a situation where he was trying to rape Kathleen potentially, and then the dog started defending it, killed the dog, and then killed Kathleen.
That would explain the carpet thing, though.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, potentially.
Plus, the lack of news about it, the lack of news coverage about this case. It's also very interesting, though.
Yeah, so you're already going into a cover-up theory. The military is covering it up.
Not really covering it up, but I think the killer has some connections? Potentially, yeah. What do you think?
But that would still mean that someone's covering it up.
Ish, yeah.
I mean, I think it's. I mean, I think Scott also suggested this in the email, that like potentially it would be hard to kind of solve this if the man is from the military.
Yeah, but okay, the lack of news coverage is it because of the military? Maybe the perpetrator was from the military? Or could it be because of discrimination, because of the nature of Kathleen's work?
Yeah, I would go with that one. I would go with the fact that this is Kathleen's like work more involved. I don't think the military would bother covering it up one guy. I mean,
That's true.
one deplorable person who.
Unless it's a higher up.
I think it's too much. You know what I mean? Too much to kind of keep there. I don't think the military is that evil. You know what I mean? And I think they would probably air this guy out. You know what I mean? Lock him up for good. So I don't think it's a cover-up. At least I just don't see it. You know what I mean? But I think why it's not super reported much is probably because of Kathleen's line of work. And I think a lot of people already, like us, immediately suspected that something had to do with her work.
That's true.
And I think a lot of people are probably thinking that it's, covering like a child, a missing child, or like a teenager is like more important than covering a person who's,
That actually reminds me of our previous case of Amber Tucker's.
Yeah, the same case, right?
Yeah, and not specifically Amber, but the women involved like the women who were also killed the same way or within the same area as Amber Tucker. Most
Yeah.
of them were working in the sex industry, and there weren't much news coverage about them.
Yeah.
So it really begs the question: the lack of news coverage, is it mainly because of the nature of their job?
I think so. Rob. You don't usually hear like a lot of these kinds of reports.
Barely hear
or like
anything at all.
Wikipedia pages.
That's true.
It's usually someone like,
Yeah, pretty sad though.
someone different than that. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
So what do you think about this case so far?
I think it was cool to talk about it because I hope we brought some attention to our listeners about this case. This case does exist. Kathleen is still considered missing. Maybe someone's from around the area, from Virginia.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, give us your input. You know what I mean, guys? Like, maybe you have some thoughts about it. I don't know. Hopefully, this kind of, at least we did justice for this case and brought it up, gave our theories. It must be a man that someone knows. You know what I mean? Just think hard. Who was? Do you know anyone who's lives in Newport News, is a white man with blonde hair, and in 2012 on September 4th was gone during some part of the day?
That's true.
Like, do you
And
have
the neighbors though.
the neighbors, everyone? I mean, but law enforcement already probably did their investigation, and if they can't find the guy, then it's really hard to expect that we'll find the guy.
How about the blood? There seems to be too much blood around.
Too much blood. So once again, DNA.
Yeah.
Do they have DNA? We don't know. But yeah, I would say it's a good podcast. I would say I'm pretty much all out of ideas here,
Yeah, me too.
and I would say let's wrap it up, and let's do another case soon. We have another interesting case lined up for you guys.
Really interesting one.
Yeah. So
What- Yeah. Sorry. Once again, thank you, Scott, for suggesting this and for
yeah.
helping us with all the information.
Yeah, this was a huge help because we wouldn't know the nightclub, we wouldn't even know her apartment, nothing. So thank you very much, Scott. You really came through with the research. And then also, I would like to say to everyone, hope you enjoyed the podcast. We'll catch you on the next one.
See you very soon.
Bye.
Bye.